Welcome back to Architectural Adventures, brought to you by Historic Springfield Society. I'm your host, Kiley. Thanks for joining me as we tour Springfield's architectural curiosities. And then, of course, as always, I have my co-host, Fillmore, here with me. So today's episode, we're going to do something fun. It's going to be a Q&A session. So we put on our Facebook page asking for everyone to submit their Springfield architectural questions. So we have some people that submitted their questions, their burning architectural questions, and here I will answer them. So thank you to everyone that submitted questions. So let's dig into this. So our first question comes from Jesse, and his question is, what architectural style is most represented in historic Springfield? Is it craftsman? Right, thanks, Jesse, for that question. So the architectural style that we see the most in historic Springfield is actually called frame vernacular. And if you're really interested in learning more about the frame vernacular style, we actually did a video about that, which we have here on our channel. So frame vernacular is not exactly a high style, but it is more an answer to regional variations. So you will see common local elements done by local designers and builders. So the frame vernacular will take elements from high styles that you see and then combine them all. And so it's not exactly a clean and neat high style building, but it is a more simplistic rendered form of high styles combined together. And the thing about architecture that's interesting is it is definitely an art form, and it can be very subjective. So sometimes someone may look at a building and say, oh, well, that's the Queen Anne style. And then someone else may look at the building and say, oh no, that's a different style. So that's the interesting thing about architecture is sometimes there are buildings that are not exactly perfect examples of styles, but rather are an amalgamation of many different styles. But the style that you see most prevalent in historic Springfield is frame vernacular. And then a second question, also from Jesse, what are the most common architectural mistakes homeowners / real estate investors make when renovating historic Springfield homes? Okay, so this is a little bit of my opinion coming into this, obviously, but I will answer the question as best I can. So in my opinion, the mistake that I see occurring most often is when real estate investors and maybe newer homeowners that don't have experience dealing with historic homes will purchase a property and then will remove everything that makes that property unique, such as all of the character defining features. And in my opinion, you shouldn't purchase a historic home if you're not going to treat it as a historic home. They all have very distinct personalities, and one of my biggest pet peeves being a preservationist is when someone purchases a historic home and then they completely gut the interior and make it look like it could be a brand new house. That really irritates me because we will never have those things again. Everything that we have now from that time period, that's what we have. And so we have to protect and preserve those elements. And, you know, there's something to be said for just leaving something the way it is and not coming in and removing things. So my feeling is if you want a new house, then buy a new house. So that's the biggest thing I see, just not respecting the history, the architecture, and just removing those important character defining features. Okay. Third question is from Leslie. Are windows required to be rebuilt, or are prefab vinyl windows allowed? This question is one of those questions that could easily be a can of worms, and at some point we will do a video going more into depth on windows. So let me break this down. We are in Springfield, and Springfield is a locally and nationally designated historic district, and it is governed by Section 106, which was the Historic Preservation Act of 1966. So the National Park Service has a set of guidelines, design guidelines, that our local city municipalities have adopted, and that is pretty much the framework that our local Historic Preservation Commission uses when making decisions regarding changes to homes within our historic districts. So there's three locally designated historic districts in Jacksonville. So that's Springfield, Riverside, Avondale, and then St. John's Quarter, which is a little sliver that's not well known that's it's part of Riverside. So those are the 3 locally designated historic districts officially. And so within all of those districts, the design guidelines must be followed. And so the question is asking if you can replace windows. So this is a tricky question because everything is on a case-by-case basis, and there's no one-size-fits-all when you're dealing with properties that are so unique, especially the ones that we have in our local historic districts. So if you have questions regarding your specific home, I highly recommend that you reach out to the Historic Preservation Commission on their website. It's jacksonville.gov, the Historic Preservation section, and they have a whole list of resources. They have a window supplement form that is very helpful. It goes into a lot of detail explaining the mechanics of historic windows, the parts of them, the best design practices, which they've pulled straight from preservation briefs when dealing with historic windows. And then you'll also see the way that the commission handles windows on historic properties. So they have a window survey form, which must be completed when you submit what's called a Certificate of Appropriateness, or COA, when dealing with historic windows. So this is going to help them determine whether or not you get approval to remove all of your historic windows and replace them with new, let's say, prefab vinyl windows. So you have to undergo extensive documentation. It's a fillable form that you can click into, but you have to number each window, create a diagram of your property showing the exact location of each window, and then photograph each window, including shots showing any areas of damage that would justify the replacement of the entire window. So to read more about the myths surrounding replacement windows, I highly recommend this book, which just came out in 2025. So it's called The Case for Historic Windows. It's an excellent book. It's a very light read. I read it in 2 days. It's a very light read. It's by Scott Seidler, who does the Craftsman blog, and then Stacy Grinsfelder, who has a blog, True Tales for Old Houses. Both of those are excellent resources. But this book is a real game changer, in my opinion, because a lot of times we're really marketed a lot of misinformation regarding new windows and energy efficiency. And all of it discusses, the embodied energy and the fact that these new vinyl windows really are never going to be a return on your investments. And the thing about our historic windows is not only are they important character defining features, but they also already have that embodied energy. A lot of the times they were made on site, so they don't have that large carbon footprint because a lot of the vinyl windows are shipped long distances to arrive to where they're going. And the thing is, the average vinyl windows, even the highest quality, will last maybe, if you're lucky, 25 to 30 years. The thing about our historic windows is some of them last 100 years or more before they need maintenance. Now, there should always be continual maintenance, as with anything else. But the point is, a lot of our historic homes have had their original windows for well over 100 years, and they're still intact. And the important thing to remember from an ecological standpoint when we're talking about historic windows is each component was made to fail independently. So you may need to reglaze some putty. You may need to replace a piece of glass. You may need to do some wood remediation. But that was done by design. These builders made it so that you can repair parts of your window and keep it in operation. The thing with vinyl windows is you can't repair things piecemeal. If there's something wrong with one part of the window, then the entire window needs to be replaced. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to dealing with replacement windows. So I'm not going to go into detail with all of the figures and everything that Scott and Stacy have presented, but I highly recommend you pick up a copy of this book and research some of this. And it's mind-boggling, really, some of the information that's presented in there. So definitely check that out. It's a really good read. And then our last question is actually one that I have submitted myself, which is a question that I see popping up perennially on the neighborhood Facebook pages and chats, and one that I've been asked myself. So I thought it would be a really good question to answer here. So are there any Sears catalog homes in Springfield? So the thing about Sears and Roebuck catalog homes is they were produced during a very specific time period, and they really fulfilled a need in especially rural parts of the country where they didn't have as much access to architects, materials, builders, and so they really popped up in those places. And now you do see them in major cities, of course, but for the most part, the Sears catalog itself even was geared more towards the people that did not have access as easily to goods and services as other people. So when you look at that as a piece of the puzzle, and then you look at the fact that Springfield, after the Great Fire of 1901, had a massive building boom and a large influx of people, and if you look at the types of people that were moving into the neighborhood at that time, you had all different types of tradespeople that flooded Springfield and made it their home. And a lot of those people were in the building industry because there was a lot of growth in Jacksonville at the time. And so there were a lot of builders, and a lot of builders lived here in Springfield. So when you start to look at all of these pieces, it really doesn't make sense that people would be ordering Sears houses by mail to come to Springfield when already we had all of these local builders, all of these local materials in such a condensed 1 square mile that were available. I mean, every other day in the newspaper, you have all of these ads from builders offering to build houses for you, and even practical draftsmen. So it really doesn't make sense when you look at it from that perspective. I have looked at all of the plans for Sears homes, and you can look at them all online. You can look at every catalog, and I have not seen any house that resembles exactly one in Springfield where I suspect that it could be a Sears house. Now, the reason I think that a lot of folks look at homes in Springfield and think that it could be a Sears house is because during the turn of the century, a lot of people were looking at pattern books, and of course there were trends. And so you would see a lot of the same elements repeated on the same homes. So, and of course you could also order, building materials from Sears. And I'm not saying that that didn't happen in Springfield. In fact, there's a lot of front door styles that you'll see in Springfield repeated over and over again that I very much do believe were ordered from a Sears catalog, but not the entire house itself. So you'll see a lot of these common elements repeated, lots of similar window styles, and that's simply because that's what was popular at the time. So that's what everybody was using to build with, and that's what everyone wanted. So I think that may be one of the things that's led to the misconception that a lot of homes could possibly be Sears homes. Another thing that I recommend everyone look at or check out if you're interested in learning more about the topic, there's actually a group, and I think it's called SearsHouses.com. That's the website. But they are a group that actually authenticates homes that are suspected to be Sears homes. And they have a very stringent process for ferreting out whether or not a home is a Sears home. They do a lot of field work to figure it out, and there's lots of different methodologies that they use in conjunction with one another to determine whether or not a home is a Sears home. One thing that is the key thing is, was your property mortgaged through Sears? That's a surefire way. If the mortgage was issued by Sears and Roebuck Company, then chances are, then yes, you do have a Sears home. And then there's other things like looking at the actual structure of the home. Are there numbered, beams and pieces, things like that. So now, am I saying that there couldn't possibly be a Sears home in Springfield? Of course not. Of course it's possible. I know that there's Sears homes in Ortega and Avondale in Jacksonville. So it is possible. I'm just saying that we have not been able to authenticate any homes as Sears homes yet. So hopefully that will put that question to rest for now. And as far as that goes, I think that we have thoroughly answered all of these questions. If you think of any more questions, put them down in the comments, and maybe we'll do another Q&A video if everyone likes this one. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Architectural Adventures.